First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Eternal Insiders. My name is Luke, and of course, I am your host, and I'm being joined today by someone you might be familiar with. He's the guy maybe you've seen in that viral clip that went around about a year and a half ago, dishing out some street justice. Maybe there was a head kicked involved in there somewhere, maybe. But more importantly, he's a very talented MMA fighter. He's a very smart individual, both inside and outside the cage. And he has his second pro fight coming up at Eternal 81, and he's kind enough to share some of his time with us today from two platforms, mind you, here on Instagram Live and being recorded for YouTube. His friends and family know him as Victor. It's Viktor Lyall. Victor, pleasure to have you here, brother. We've got a fight going on at November 4th for Eternal 81. How is everything down your way as we prepare for this fight, man?
How's my preparation?
How is the preparation? How is everything feeling for you? Like, what's the vibe for you like right now? We're pretty close to the fight.
Yeah, it's good, man. Fighting's a funny thing. Like, it's very up and down. One day, I'm like, hell yeah, I can't wait to get in the cage and commit legal grievous bodily harm to someone. And then the next day, I'm like, I really can't be bothered doing this. I just want to hide in the snow. So, yeah, up and down, but I feel pretty good. Yeah, a good friend of mine, Dave Martinez, the other day, he goes, everyone knows Dave Martinez.
Everyone knows Dave Martinez.
He goes, I've never seen this guy oozing with confidence before a fight. He just goes in there and gets the job done. So I think that's about where my head's at most of the time and now. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the ups and downs of MMA, right? And I mean, you know, the word of Dave Martinez is gospel. So whatever Dave says goes.
That's it, man, for sure.
I mean, how is everything there, man? I mean, in our little attempts to be going Instagram Live just now, I mean, we had Dunson coming in there, the famed Dunson Death Squad, of course. Of course, David Martinez, we just riffed off there. I mean, I just talked to your teammate in John Martin Fraser the other night. His interview will be coming out on YouTube in a couple of days. I mean, you're training with some Eternal royalty there, brother. So a couple of former Eternal champs. Hopefully for John Martin Fraser, become the middleweight champ at Eternal 81 on the same card as you. What's it like training with those guys? We rolling with them, we're getting our ass kicked a little bit. What's the dynamic like training with all those boys?
Yeah, it's inspiring. I've always looked up to Dave, especially as a fighter, ever since I met him. Something about his attitude, his work ethic, everything about it. He's just an amazing fighter, an amazing athlete. And watching John get ready for camp, I've just watched him plow through dudes. 5 minutes after 5 minutes after 5 minutes after 5 minutes, he's plowing through people. So for me, it's inspiring getting to train with those dudes, getting smashed by him. Hurts the ego a little bit, but it's good, man. It's inspiring and it toughens you up, gets you ready. And yeah, no, it's a real honor to have such a strong team.
I don't doubt it, man. I mean, the amount of things that I've heard about the famed Dunson Death Squad, particularly from speaking to David so much, man. I mean, he's always a well of knowledge when it comes to talking about that team. So obviously a lot of good things going on at that gym, at the Ignite Martial Arts and that sort of thing as well. Can you brush me up just a little bit? Training at Ignite Martial Arts, are you also sort of back and forth between Gamebred Academy? What can you tell us about what that dynamic is? Are you one place or another? Are you sort of more out of Ignite? What's your sort of situation like training these days?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I've just been always a bit of a maverick, I guess. I kind of, I'm very loyal to my team, both Gamebred and Ignite. Got different athletes at both sides, but we all train together. Honestly, it just depends on kind of, you know, the current vibe, the current culture, both strong gyms. Yeah, I don't know, not much to say about really the particulars of it. I just go, my camps are a bit wild personally. Like, I don't actually have much of a plan. I just have a goal. I've said this before, and I kind of tally off the things I want to get done in the week. And I base it on how my body recovers and regulates. So yeah, I just kind of get in the training that I need to do whenever and wherever I need throughout that week. So, yeah.
That's fair, man. I mean, listen to the mind, listen to the body, what it's sort of telling you, then go from there, right? I mean, that's a pretty good sort of plan to sort of live by. I mean, you had this fight coming up. You took this on 3 weeks' notice. What can you tell us about how that sort of came about? Were you looking for a fight at the time, or did this kind of just fall into your lap and you said, stuff it, let's get in the cage?
Yeah, well, I just got back from Europe. And I realized I had a bit of a year to just kind of unwind, and I realized almost a whole year went by without fighting, and was like, oh shit, I got to get in there. And the nearest one was pretty much XFC in December, which I was aiming for. And then my mate Wombat, I think he's in here. Shout out to Wombat.
Shout out Wombat.
He called me up and he said, "We've got a fight. We've got a fight on." He told us about this offer, and I just decided to take it, man, because in an ideal world, I could fit in 2 fights this year, and fighting on short notice cuts out the pressure and the anxiety really of a long camp. So I thought, why not? I've never taken a fight this soon before, so I'm not quite sure how it will go, what my prep would be like, but it's interesting, man. I'm keen, so whatever happens, yeah.
And we're keen to have you in there, brother. And I mean, for anyone that is watching this back on YouTube, obviously we're Instagram live at the same time here, so a lot of eyeballs will be familiar with there too. But, you know, for those that might be watching, touch at the top of the conversation that you'll be a familiar face to a lot of people. We made a point of, look, we don't need to necessarily get into the story of everything that happened a year and a half ago. But, of course, you were involved in a viral clip, that went sort of around the world, from an altercation that you ended up in Brisbane, obviously defending someone there. Obviously there was a film and all that sort of thing, head kicked involved, yada, yada, yada. Everyone's sort of seen every iteration that's ever popped up on Facebook and YouTube of that video being dissected from this, that, and the other, every other YouTube clip breaking it down and everything too. But curious to sort of know, man, as far as that side of things go, like, how did sort of things for you, I mean, as far as like your journey goes, did much change for you after that, even just in terms of how you thought about what you wanted to do in terms of your life? I mean, you were doing things like, even just breakdown videos on Instagram of how to defend yourself. Even there was some tongue-in-cheek things and that sort of thing. But I mean, did much change for you in terms of like how you viewed what you wanted to do, even just a little bit in terms of your life since that happened?
Not really, man, because like, to be honest, that just happened to me like 100 times in my life. That's just the one that got caught on video. So everyone who knows me was like, it's probably a long time coming. Hasn't really changed much. It just gave me a large audience. Like, I've always been into writing. I've always been writing. I've always been into doing certain things that I've done. And it just didn't go to an unheard audience as much anymore, but I'm still living my life the same, man. It hasn't really changed too much, in my opinion, for myself. So, yeah.
I mean, just on that, I mean, you said, part of that came with it, the sort of the social media following, that sort of thing went up. I mean, as far as the positives of some of those things that have come out, and I mean, I've heard you talk about this, about, people that have sort of reached out to you and said, that, either you're an inspiration for something, maybe they wanted to get themselves into like a mixed martial arts class, and even everything just from, being a martial artist and how it gives you discipline. Like, did you have like a lot of people reaching out to you and saying, hey man, like, you're the reason why I'd like to get into mixed martial arts, or you're the reason maybe I took a self-defense class, or I'm doing mixed martial arts now, and it was you that sort of inspired me? Did you get much of that?
Yeah, I got like thousands of messages, and I tried to answer all of them. I think I did answer all of them. And that was a cool thing, because I only got into martial arts myself because I always envisioned the archetype of whom I wanted to be when I grew up. And that's the reason I do everything daily. I'm always trying to be who I want to be and grow into the person I want to be. So it's cool that people message me that, and I was happy to help them. And I still am happy to help them when they send me messages. So yeah, for sure.
No, cool to hear, man. I mean, just on that side of things, man, obviously mixed martial arts, we're doing that now. I mean, you've done a fair bit in terms of your amateur fights. Obviously, you're turning pro now, and I want to touch on the amateur stuff shortly. But I mean, for those people that don't, know your sort of journey, even just from, martial arts, can you give us a bit of an insight? Where did this all sort of start from you? Like, going back to the start, maybe taking up martial arts. I think there was Kung Fu involved for you or something there at the start. What can you tell us about how everything started for you, just from a combat perspective?
Yeah, I was always just pretty kind of bad at sports. I was never really good at anything that much, really. And, I was getting into fights and stuff, getting picked on, and I always liked to fight. I always fought back, and I got into a fight, and then my dad dragged me to a boxing gym, and hitting pads the first time was like the best thing ever. And hitting pads is probably like my favorite thing to do now still. So it just kind of spiraled out of control from there, and I got pretty obsessed with it, and it just, I don't know, originally it was kind of something I was good at, and it's something that could characterize myself. But now there's a multitude of reasons why I like fighting that aren't so much about that anymore, but yeah.
So, I mean, on that, I mean, you, as I said, you've had a number of amateur fights. I think you had like 11 amateur fights across about a 7-year period. I believe you won 8 of those fights. Like, as far as what you had in in your mind, in terms of your mixed martial arts journey, was that sort of a plan that you had laid out for yourself? Did you want to sort of go that length of period, having that many sort of amateur fights before you potentially turn pro? Or was it just sort of how things played out for you, just based on, just life doing its sort of thing? How close was that sort of the way it played out to what you had in mind?
Not really, man. Like I'm not someone who plans anything really. I've got a clinical issue when it comes to planning things.
You and me both, mate. Don't worry about that.
So yeah, I was just preoccupied, trying to, I was going through uni. I got 3 degrees. I was studying. I was trying to make money. I'm just always trying to do other things. I've always taken on so many things in my life, and fighting was always something central, but it wasn't something that I was planning or trying to do. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do in the moment and what felt right, and that's what I'm doing now. So the trajectory of my career from the start to now is kind of hinged upon, I guess, my momentary feelings, and that's where I am now. That's all I can really say, I guess.
No, so fair enough. But so even from like a professional standpoint, I mean, there wasn't sort of something you had in mind for, like, this is the time, or this is the age, or this is the particular date that I want to sort of start professionally. Like, you getting in professional fights, of course, you already had one. We're coming to your second fight. That was just sort of happened, I guess, like organically in terms of making that transition to professional fighting.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I thought I was ready, and I was like, yeah, it's time now. And then, yeah, like even with this fight, I got off a plane back to Australia, and then I'm like, I'm fighting now. That's just kind of how my life goes. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's how it goes. I don't really think like I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and yada, yada, yada. I just got off a plane, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take this fight. And so here I am. I just do my best every day and try and improve upon the things I enjoy doing every day. There's so many other things I focus on in my life that people don't really even know about, as well as martial arts and fighting. So yeah, that's all I can really say.
No, I mean, even on that, man, I mean, I was going to touch on that myself. I mean, you're such a, from what I can see, like a multi-layered person. I mean, as you said, I mean, you've got degrees, I think one was a psychology and science and that sort of thing, business major. I mean, studying, was it like history or something like that as well? I mean, mixed martial artist. I mean, you've traveled the world and that sort of thing. Like, as you said, so many different variables to you. I mean, you just said you got back from a plane from Europe. Is that just like a holiday over there with a bit of training, or what can you tell us about being overseas?
If
you can tell us anything about overseas, if you want, you can share whatever you want.
Yeah, I just had some family in Europe that I've always been intending to go visit, and as I said, the year kind of blew past, and the summer was also over, and I was like, oh, I got to get over there. So I went over there, and yeah, I didn't really. It's probably the first time in my life I haven't really done much training actually, but I saw a lot of architecture, did a lot of history, visited a lot of family, and yeah, no, it was good over there. Lost my passport. Yeah, I had
lost the passport. All right.
They lost my luggage for like 3 days. Missed 2 planes, I think. Slept in the rain. Slept in the rain in the middle of the rainforest. Yeah, all kinds of crazy shit happened actually. Some things I can't really say on a podcast live, but yeah, no, it was a pretty hectic trip, just like most things in life. Pretty hectic, and yeah, I'm back here now and here to fight, as it seems.
You're back here to fight, and I'm very much looking forward to this one, man. I mean, Eternal 81, like we said, John Martin Fraser at the top of that card, trying to get his middleweight title back, someone that you train with, gym we just touched on there. I mean, coming back to that gym, I mean, if you've been away, I mean, what a gym of guys to come back to and get yourself prepped on short notice. That must be quite an advantage for you. So we're coming into this fight. We're fighting against Corey Lynch. Obviously, this is short notice. I mean, had you even sort of had time to sort of check him out as an opponent? Do you like to even sort of look at anything about who you sort of got fighting, who you sort of got coming up that's going to be in front of you? Like, what can you tell us about what you know about Corey, if anything at all?
Yeah, I don't really know too much about him because he hasn't really shown much. Like, obviously, he got starched in his last fight. That happens. I'm not, going to put it against him or anything. It happens sometime. But it means that I don't really know much about him. I know that he's big. He seems big and tall, strong dude. That's all I really know, to be honest. Like, he hasn't really shown much. I know I've shown a lot. I know my strengths. I think I'm tough. I'm proficient. I'm technical. I'm fast. I'm powerful. I know what I'm good at, and I'm not sure he's well, from what I can ascertain, he hasn't really shown much of that in his fights. So I'm not sure he has it, but I don't think he lacks it either. So I'm not looking past him. I'm not underrating him. And honestly, I always see myself as the underdog. It's like this weird thing I have in my head. Every fight I have, I always think I'm fighting against the grain and they're bigger and stronger and faster and everyone wants them to win. And I don't know, it's this weird head thing I have. And so it kind of amps me up. It makes me nervous too. And it makes me hungry. And I'm taking it seriously and I'm just going to do my best with the prep I have. And that's all I can say.
Hey, man, I mean, I can say that right back at you. I mean, I look at everyone and think everyone's a better podcaster, a better YouTuber than me, man. So, but, you know, somehow we kind of crack on and we go out there and we get the job done. So, I mean, it's got to be a good omen, right? I mean, we're setting ourselves up for success here, yeah?
That's it.
We're going out and winging it, man. I like it. I mean, just on that, I mean, you kind of just touched on it briefly, but I mean, you know, anyone can sort of go on YouTube and, I mean, look back through your sort of amateur fights. So I've got a couple of questions for you there. I mean, you competed quite a few years ago as an amateur on Eternal MMA. Unfortunately for yourself, those fights didn't go your way. But I mean, hey, it's amateur, right? It's amateur fighting, right? So I mean, you're there to learn. The wins and losses don't necessarily matter. But like, what can you tell us about what you remember of that experience fighting for Eternal those couple of times? I mean, the promotion's changed so much in that time. Like everything looks so different. You look back at the YouTube videos, and everything looks older. But you know, what do you remember of that experience fighting for Eternal back then?
Yeah, definitely a few things I can say. The first thing that I can say, which I'm grateful for, is that I was saying this to John the other day, John Fraser, how people can have 10 fights, sometimes 20 fights, and they can never get tested. You know, they might go in there and starch 10 people, and they've never had a real fight before. I'm thankful for the fights I've had in my career because I've had my nose broken. I've had, you know, my eye busted. I've had blood, can't breathe, can't see out of one of my eyes. And learning how to deal with those things and overcome them in the midst of a fight is a massive tool to have in your belt. And that's definitely what happened in both those Eternal fights. I think that in my history, I've lost 3 fights and I've never been outclassed ever in the cage. So every fight I had that I've lost, there was a very clear issue with my prep or the way I acted in the fight, which led to my loss. That's good. You know, it means there's things that I can learn and work from. And both of those Eternal fights, both of them were fight of the nights. Both of them I made very clear mistakes as to why I lost. And both of them, I think I wasn't outclassed. And in fact, I was probably better than the guy that beat me. And I would back myself 100 times out of 100 if we were to rematch. So, yeah, I guess that's what I can say about those fights. I remember the first one I lost with Corbin. It was exactly what I was talking about. I went out there and he looks big and he looks scary. And I was like, all right. And we went in there and we punched on. And the first punch of the fight closed my eye out completely. I lost 50% of my vision.
Damn.
And the second punch of my fight busted my nose open and I was bleeding everywhere. And I remember being like, in my head, I was like, I can't win now. I've already lost, like, you know, I've lost to the judges and this and that. And I started negatively reinforcing this and talking to myself. And in my head, I was just surviving and just fighting because I just had the raw part of me come out and I was like, fuck it, let's fight. I don't care about winning or losing anymore. And then when I look back on the fight, I actually did really well. I took him down at wheel. I kicked him in the head. I landed some huge shots and it was a winnable fight right up until the end when I pulled guard. So that's exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the experience you learn and you know, the things you can learn from those kind of failures and mental game and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely what I've got from those Eternal fights. Long answer.
I mean, you look back at any of your fights that are on YouTube, man, and I mean, you know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, just for people that, you know, aren't familiar with you as far as like, you know, what you've done as an amateur and coming in now as a profession, your career, like, you know, there are going to be obviously a lot of people tuning in for Eternal 81. You know, what can sort of people expect from you? I mean, you touched on your toughness and all that sort of thing, but, you know, looking back at your videos, I mean, you've been in some wars, man. I mean, even you think you said there, like blood pissing out of your nose. I mean, you just look like you're ready to throw down. Like someone says, what am I looking forward to in a Viktor Lyall fight? Like, what are they seeing from Viktor Lyall when he gets in the cage?
I actually don't know. I was going to ask you that. It's a funny thing. I think when I think about my opponents, I think about when they look at me, I try to envision what they see and what their game plan is, and I have no idea. I have no fucking idea. Excuse my French.
French away, brother.
I don't know. I just get in there and fight and do my best. And yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about what there is to expect, but there's no guarantees with me. I don't really, like I said, I'm not a planning person. I don't go and and ruminate on the steps I'm going to take and the things I'm going to do in anything in my life, really, especially fighting. I get in there and fight. So I don't know. I guess that's an answer. If someone asks what to expect out of me, it's I'm going to get in there and fight. And fuck, I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, this seems like such a basic question, but I mean, all that considered, man, as far as like you sort of getting in there, but like, do you just enjoy fighting? I know that sounds so basic, but I mean, I've talked to plenty of people like, look, I do fighting. I don't know if I enjoy it, but I mean, is it something that you just enjoy? Like, do you look forward to kind of getting in there? Like, if that's the case, if you're not planning for anything, do you just kind of enjoy getting in there? Like, what are you sort of feeling when you're sort of going?
It's such a hard question. Like, I want to say no, but then as a fighter, I can't say that. It's weird. I love fight. Like, I don't know, man. I wish I could just fight, but the irritating thing about fighting is, 8-week training camp, making weight, dieting, selling tickets, promoting the fight, talking to people about it, showing up there, signing the contract, getting your bloods done, getting the doctors done, ruminating it on a night and day and thinking about it, and then driving to the event and then going to the weigh-ins and driving home and refueling and driving back to the event and then sitting there for fucking 6 hours waiting for. I hate all of that, man. It's people don't understand how much actually goes into fighting, and that stuff has nothing to do with fighting, and I hate all of that shit. And I get anxiety just thinking about the fact I'm going to have to do all that when I sign a contract for a fight.
Yeah.
If it was like, go tomorrow and fight some dude in a car park, easy money. I'm 100% down for that. But all the other shit, it's so much mental pressure. It's irritating. It's annoying. It's stupid. And I hate it. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer, really. Fighters know what it's like, but yeah, that's the only way we can do it, I guess. So that's what we got to do.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, man, I mean, you're making me feel a little bit better about myself, because I'm thinking, like, anytime I do a podcast interview, I'm like, oh, it's in an hour. I've got to start prepping for this. I've got to think of something to ask. Oh, this is like the worst thing I've got to do. You're going through that shit where you got to like do all your weight cut and everything you just ripped off. I'm like, okay, maybe my job ain't so fucking hard after all. So, but no.
Yeah, bro. There's so much goes into it. And, I do it all on my own. I live alone. Sorting all this shit out. I even do my weight cut alone most of the time. So, it's that aspect of fighting is irritating and not something I love about it. But the fighting part, I like. I still hate fighting, but I love fighting too. The reason I enjoy fighting really, though, is because it's really just a canvas for me to manifest many virtues in life that I feel like I want to manifest or I believe in as a man. Courage, proficiency, strength, power. There's so many things that go into it that I want to prove to myself that I can do, that I'm about that, and I want other people to know about that too. So that's another thing. That's another reason I get into it.
No, I mean, a lot of people are going to find that out, man. I mean, like we said, November 4th, it's Eternal 81, a couple of big fights in there and you joining in there. I mean, that's just a bit more extra icing on the cake, man. So we're very much looking forward to that one. Of course, live and exclusive on UFC Fight Pass for the main card. Still tickets available. I mean, they sell out pretty quick, the Eternal tickets. So make sure you get over to eternalmma.com and get yourself some tickets for those fights. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I mean, just talking about that, the last one, man. I mean, you said you're not necessarily planning anything in terms of your fight career or anything else going on. Are you planning for a sort of way for this to finish? Do you like to keep those cards close to your chest? Are we just going out there and doing the Viktor Lyall thing where we see how it kind of goes? Is there a way that you'd like to get the fight done, perhaps?
I would definitely like to finish him. There's a few things I'm looking at in my head as to how I would like to finish him. I'm not a fight predicting guy, though, and I don't really want to say how I want to finish him either. So, but I want to get it done. So, yeah, that's as much as I can predict, I suppose.
That's right. We'll see what happens. And I mean, it's for you to go out there and do it. It's for us to sit back and enjoy, man. So like we said, November 4th, Eternal 81. Check it out on UFC Fight Pass or get your tickets at eternalmma.com. He's Viktor Lyall. I'm Luke Vic. Pleasure talking to you, brother, on 2 platforms, Instagram Live right here and also for YouTube going up in a couple of days. So first time we've done that here and very much enjoyable, man. Very interesting person to talk to. So all the best for Eternal 81 and we'll speak to you on the other side, brother.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.